Celeste, the critically beloved indie platformer, is now on Xbox Game Pass, and I have played through it. Well, I have played through the first couple of levels, and I can tell you that yes, as I said back when this game first came out in early 2019, or was it early 2018? Back when it first came out, that this game looked like shit. And now that I've played it, like I can reaffirm that opinion. Like this game is nothing special. Who the fuck is coming out and trying to declare these games, the Undertales, the FNAFs, the Lisas, like who the fuck is coming out here and declaring these games that have deep, compelling stories? Like that was the big thing about Celeste when it first came out. Like nobody cared about the platforming, nobody cared about the gameplay, the level design. Like the game was about being determined enough to climb this mountain, like overcoming anxiety and accomplishing a goal. Like, isn't that great? Isn't that grand? Isn't that a stunning and brave message? Like, overcoming anxiety is one of those like SJW things that like the left love to push as this like insurmountable wall between them and success. Like, oh, I could certainly go out and do things if I just wasn't so anxious. Like, there's nothing special about the character Madeline. There's nothing special about the ideas presented in this game. Like, it really is a Super Meat Boy clone, like, at its absolute core, with a dash mechanic, right? That's it. Like, Super Meat Boy wasn't that great to begin with. Like, that game was overrated, too. And I think with time, Celeste will go down a similar route of being completely forgotten by the masses. But to see the developers treat the IP the way they do, where they act as if it actually has some kind of like higher meaning to it, that like Madeline is transgender, which is obviously not the case in the game itself. Like it really is like a J.K. Rowling style, like Dumbledore's gay retcon. You can tell that Madeline is not a dude by the way people treat her. You can the platforming, not all that difficult for anyone who's played a Mario game before. One of the things that really struck me about it is how it like straight up ripped off Cosmic Mario from Super Mario Galaxy. You know how like Super Mario Galaxy there are these Marios that will chase after you. They will imitate your movements, and if you like go too slowly or make a mistake, like they're gonna touch you and hurt you. Like that's what Celeste does with like Dark Celeste. Like, oh, your other half or whatever. It's stupid. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's clearly much like Undertale and its ripoff of like Earthbound. Like, what is with these games and obsessively ripping off Nintendo properties? Like Cave Story, like Undertale did it. Celeste did it. Like you just keep seeing this over and over and over again. Like, when are we gonna get like our SJW Metroid with like lesbian transgender Samus? Like, I'm sure it's in the works. I'm sure they're gonna make it eventually, and you're gonna see the indie scene praise it as being better than Metroid. Like, it's coming. Like, let's not delude ourselves. Like, we are going to see these people act as if these games are in any way worth being talked about, right? Because Celeste was not at all remarkable. Like, I don't want to call it bad exactly. Like, I thought it was like a mediocre platformer. Like, I don't think I was offended by it. But the thing that bothered me about Celeste isn't necessarily that it was so awful, but the fact that people hyped it up so much, right? Like, hyped it up as like being one of the best indie games of the year, one of the best games of the year, period. One of the best soundtracks, which is a load of crap. Like, one of the best stories in game, which is complete bullshit. Fuck off with that nonsense. Like, no fucking way. Like, Celeste doesn't have a story. Like, barely has a story. Like, what is there to talk about? Like, overcoming anxiety? Like, what kind of how much of a shill do you have to be to really push forward that narrative that like, oh, this game has you overcoming anxiety, so it's good. It's just no, very, very disappointing. I wasn't disappointed by the game because I had no expectations. There was nothing about it that really won me over. There was nothing about it that really impressed me at all. Like the platforming wasn't great. The artwork wasn't great. Actually, I would say that the main draw against the game, I would say, is the terrible character design and like aesthetic, which is just plain awful. It reminds me a lot of like Undertale in that regard, where like it just looks atrocious, and it really should. I don't understand how we live in this industry where people will seriously say stuff like Mario 3D World doesn't look good, that the Wonderful 101 doesn't look good, and then turn around and say that like, oh, Celeste is perfectly fine. It isn't. Like nothing about this recent wave of SJW indie games is all that compelling, and yet I don't see anyone really calling them out. Like Spiritfarer, that was a load of shit too. Like I played that on Game Pass, complete crap. Like I'm not saying there aren't any good games made by SJWs, because I'm playing through Brutal Legend right now. I'm about to like sing its praises. With the power of metal, like Tim Schafer is one of the only creative people in the Western gaming sphere, right? Like one of the only developers I am aware of in the Western sphere who's actually makes unique creative games, right? He's an SJW. Like it's not just a matter of being an SJW. It's just not having the talent to make anything interesting. You know what I mean? Like Toby Fox, like complete hack. He has no idea how to make anything really. Like these Celeste people, like the only reason Celeste was even really discussed going into like past 2019 or even past its release date was this weird narrative that like, oh, is Madeline trans? It's just what the fuck, stupid bullshit. I hate that. So anyway, Celeste is not worth your time at all. I would never suggest anyone buying it, picking it up. It's not. Play a good platformer, like play a Nintendo platformer, play Tropical Freeze, play New Super Mario Bros. U, play Yoshi. Those are like 3 better games right there. Like there is no reason to ever pick up Celeste.